Hello, and welcome to Sobercast, where we provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in podcast format. We're an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into our virtual basket. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Frankie, and I'm an alcoholic. I actually did recently divorce, where it would have been. But my name is Frankie, and I'm an alcoholic. I have a sobriety date. It's July 28th, 2008. I have a home group. It's Alcoholics in Action in New Haven, Connecticut. And that's actually what it's about, Alcoholics in Action. And I also have a sponsor with the Work and Knowledge of the 12 Steps. And I have the Work and Knowledge of the 12 Steps, and I sponsor women and men. My story is just like the lady who's spoken before me, Becca. I'm a little nervous. So let's see. I always start this, I don't know why, because my story never really changes that much. I'm from Connecticut, and I was born of a 16-year-old mom and a 17-year-old dad. They were not married. They never did get married. And I always thought my problem was them, and they're very good excuses. If I will get into that, maybe not. But the truth is, when I could see the truth, since the Work and Knowledge of the 12 Steps, I was handed to my grandparents, who are, my grandmother's a saint. My grandfather is actually the best man I ever met. And from an early age, maybe they were compensating for what my parents lacked. I was given everything. My grandfather used to take me out every single day, and he would say he was all out of no days. That meant anything I possibly asked for, he couldn't say no because he was all out of them. And my grandmother never said the word no to me until I was about 15. And I did have a temper tantrum. It was $5 to go to Burger King. I actually did get the $5, and I did go to Burger King. And these are the things that kind of contributed to my spiritual malady, selfish and self-centered, driven by 100 forms of fear. And I stayed within that block. I remember being about 9, 10 years old. I lived across the street from 3rd Avenue Park, and I used to sit on the steps and watch these two boys play basketball. And one was 5 years older than me, one was 6, and I wanted that. Anything I wanted, I had to have. And that brings me, I remember watching TV with my grandfather, and when a commercial would come on, my grandfather would say, "I want that." And it was kind of a joke because he knew I was about to say it. So these two boys, well, I was much younger than them, but when I hit 15 years old, here's the moral of the story. I have 2 children from the guy that was 5 years older than me, and my first husband was the guy that was 6 years older than me. I have the youngest child. And I actually thought the whole world rotated at my convenience. And it actually did up until not that long ago. And I know how to get what I want, and I didn't know that was my problem. And I say that I use for many different reasons, and the truth is, it was kind of like, I remember the first time I drank. I did. And I'm kind of going to share a story that I've actually never spoken out of my mouth, except to the husband I just divorced. The first time I drank, it was like amaretto milk. And my mom suffers from alcohol. My mom did suffer from mental illness and alcoholism. And she gave me this bottle. And it was like Christmas Eve. And I remember drinking excessively. And my grandmother was trying to get it away. My grandmother had a little sense. Knew that this child should not be drinking it. And I remember her hiding it. And we were playing like tug of war. Like I knew actually where it was. And looking back, there was a problem then. And I do drink to the point I know I had enough when I'm vomiting. And my other chemicals, the same thing. My thing is like I have to do it to the point that I vomit, that I know I had enough, and I need more if I start vomiting again. That's sad, but those are my signals. So it's actually the problem began with my first husband. And the day we both picked up, was together, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And my father, who puts a whole new twist on alcoholism. So does my mom. And my family has been afflicted by alcoholism. But my dad came to live with us. There was problems in his home. My father did live a couple blocks down the street, and I did not see him. I seen him maybe like twice a year. But when I got pregnant, I did the same thing. I was pregnant at 16. My mother decided to throw me out, and I had to knock on my dad's door and say, could you take me in? And so I take him, about 23 years old. He comes to live with us, and this I thought was the problem too. I have this other chemical that's a huge problem, and my father's a severe alcoholic. And this is a wake-up. This is when it's not fun anymore, within like 6 months into a year into it, when it's still fun. I have no idea that alcohol and another depressant could kill you. So I did shoot my father up with a bag of dope. That did kill him. And I ran from that for many, many years. My family had kind of like said exactly what they thought. They called me a murderer. It was my favorite uncle. And I ran. Like it was kind of instant. And my first husband went to jail, and I was so codependent, went from my grandparents to my first boyfriend with the 2 children to my first husband, that when he went to jail, I actually did not know what to do, so I picked up this other chemical. And it worked. My first husband laid out my clothes, told me exactly what I was supposed to do, and I loved him dearly. And when he went, I remember him coming back from jail, and I was trying to say, like, I have this major problem. Like, you can't even imagine. Drugs is part of my story. I was just telling somebody outside, I don't even know if these 12 steps work for the alcoholic. I know it works for the drug addicts. I know that. That's my story. It's my experience. So when he came back, we think I'm mentally challenged, maybe, mentally defected, like the big book says. And I was like, I have this big problem. And he was like, and it's a Friday, he gets out of jail. And on Monday, he was like, don't worry about it, we'll get you on medication on Monday. And I'm like, it's much bigger than that. And I went to the store for a pack of cigarettes, and I did not return to my first husband or my son. I was in I don't even know a fancier way of putting this, I was in a crack house. And with another, I'm going to dress it up, like, but that's what it was. And my other crackhead friends, like, I don't know what to call them, says to me, do you know your husband is doing 1 year in jail and your son is in DCF custody? And no, I did not. So as fast as I possibly could, 8 months later, I got myself into a program. And don't drink, go to meetings, people, places, and things, know your triggers. I was walking around with this relapse prevention book. If something hypothetically happens in 2026 that I'm not prepared for, I could go back to this book. And listen, it's funny now, but the sad part is I believe this 100%. I had commitments and meetings. I was doing it. I was the best goddamn don't drink, go to meeting person you ever seen. People, places, and things, this is how serious I took it. I divorced my first husband. I loved him just as much as the day I divorced him as the day I married him, because I thought that was the problem. I did not go back to West Haven, my hometown. I stayed in this godforsaken town. And I had a lot of meetings. I was instructing group, cheering every meeting. I did have a sponsor that I would call and tell her how my life sucked, and pray in the morning, and you won't drink. And I found a new husband in a new town to drink in. That's what happened. My triggers was me. Breathing air was my trigger. And everybody thinks that's funny, but you guys know now, though. Like, you guys know. That's why you're laughing, and that's good, because I believed it. I believed it, and I thought when I took a fall, it was the biggest fall of my life. And I thought AA had failed me. But I have to say, it had worked. The new husband thing worked for 2 years. Like, it had filled something, you know, and I was going to live happily ever after. And I could destroy men, too. He had 7 years. This was my pick, right? Well, if I relapse with men, if I have a guy with 7 years, that's less likely to happen. It's not true. It's not true. He was a mess right alongside of me. So I thought AA had failed me. I thought God had failed me. And I swear that, but I'm going to try not to. I was pissed off. I was pissed off at AA because you guys had lied. I came in here and I believed it like a kindergartner. Like I believed every word you said. Just like I was being taught the ABCs. I didn't think the lady was lying. I believed her. I believed every word and I did it to a T. And I know I did not make a mistake because I just do anything 100%, whether it's drinking or I'm in here. I'm all the way. I'm just like compulsive. I suffer from alcoholism, whatever you want to call it. So it took me 5 years to get back here. And my youngest son was taken again. And that husband had walked out. I won't qualify, because I don't have to humiliate myself any further if I'm sitting down with another female or a male. You know, I might, but in front of a big group like this, everybody knows, right? Everybody knows all the humiliating, shameful things. Okay, so I don't have to do it? All right, thank you. And so I do remember, it's funny because I came in contact with my friend again, and I remember him saying, and it's kind of at the end, and he was like, I hope it doesn't take a tragedy for you to get it. And he was my mark. If I ever got worse than that, I was going to stop. And he came to tell me that it was worse than he could ever have dreamed of being. And I could kind of see, I was sensing that. You know, I was sensing that when you're on a mattress on the ground, you know, but I still had a place to live and I still had my son. The tragedy, was losing my son. I knew immediately what he meant. So, I had an open DCF case, and I was arrested for something I was just nameless. And, the next morning I put my son on the bus because a good mom is going to smoke crack and shoot dope or drink and whatever the case may be, whatever the time may be, and I'll be home to put my son on the bus. That's how I got through, right? Even though I was gone while he was sleeping, he was left alone. And I put my son on the school bus, I go to get him off, and he's not there. And I thought my son was kidnapped. And it's not. He was in DCF custody. So as fast as I could, I love my son more than anything in this world. 18 months later, did I say, hey, every morning I knew. I had to get to a program. I knew that. And every morning I would say, this is it. And within a half an hour I was making a liar out of myself. And it was not love. If this is the only thing in the world that I love, it's my son. It's my youngest son. And a year and a half later, I was being dropped off at the Sobering Center in Danbury by my last friend. I was codependent. Everybody gave me everything. I had friends, male friends, that will just give me everything for decades. And there was nobody there. Somebody was actually throwing my stuff out of his pickup truck, trash bags, at the Sobering Center. And I was literally on my knees begging. And I'm blessed that I actually got to speak there, last week or 2 weeks before. I love that place. And from there, and I got there, I had a broken wrist from a boyfriend that I might remember his name, but he was important at the time, And but while I'm at the Sobering Center, I had to stay there for 2 months, and I'm not like people that come back and they're with it. There's something not right. And I knew that. I can't think straight. And I went to Trinity Glen, which is in Sharon, Connecticut. I found another solution. His name was Dave. And we were asked to leave. We were asked to leave a month early. And I went to New Haven. He followed. I got here February 2nd. He got here February 3rd. I went into the sober house, if you want to call it that, and he relapsed. And I was just saying to somebody in the car, oh yeah, I remember in the car. And he relapsed, and I told him, clarity, this is not me, because I've proven this many times before. I said, please get on a bus and go back to wherever you came from. And he was like, I can't believe you're doing this. And I said, you'd be the fifth guy I go out. Like, I already know my patterns. Like, 4 is like kind of enough, please. I was like, get on a bus and go back. I was like, I'm going to relapse. I'm going to relapse. If I stay with you, I'm going to relapse. And believe me, it was not me. Like, that's my solution. It makes me feel better, and it works. I had done it in Waterbury. I found this new husband. And I got to Trinity Glen, and I remember being called inability to rehabilitate. And I went back to my room, and I sat with that for 3 days. And that's dead accurate. Everything for the past 20 years proved that to be correct. When I get out of Trinity Glen, I'm in New Haven, back home, and I went to another fellowship. I won't call it out by name, but I think you can figure it out. And I sat there because that's all I knew. If I could sit here, I could maybe achieve 2 years, get my son back, and that's cool. Like, I knew that the meetings could do that much, you know. And the behavior, like, my behaviors suck at this point, you know. And I know how to cheat on my husband. Well, you know, like, I know how to steal out of your pocketbook. Well, you know, I know how to do these disgraceful things. And I always want to be part of. And that's what was going on. And I kind of knew. I was in AA the first time. And I was like, I have to go to AA. So I switched, just like that. All the commitments in NA. I said it. And I walked away, and I remember me and my second husband were kind of trying to get back. He had 6 more months than I did. And he was like, do you realize what you just did? You just walked away from everything. And I got really scared. And this woman, I said, I just left my fellowship. And she was like, yay, you've raised the bar. I really just trashed that fellowship. I am so sorry. Like, it's just me. And so I had this woman, and she's going to read the book word for word. And I know the book. I could recite the book. I had been in AA for 2 years before. It doesn't mean I understood it. And I'm chairing the meeting. Like I said, I could go to meetings, and I could sit there and do commitments and not do nothing. I could find a new husband. I could do that. So I'm sitting there, and I'm chairing this meeting, and I also have a male sponsor who's actually very handsome, and he's 10 years younger than me, but he glows something else. I got to honestly say, the first time I walked into a meeting, and I seen him there, and I was like, who the heck is that? And but he glows recovery. A veil like comes over his face, and he could do this without women seeing him like that. And I'm blessed to have that, because I could do the same way. That's the only defect that's really been taken. I don't see men as my personal playground anymore. But I'm chairing this meeting, and this guy opens his mouth. And it's like the sky opens up, and angels had sang, and it's nothing really special. He gave me an explanation of that I'm not crazy. Something that I really needed to hear for 20 years. He said that I have a physical allergy, which produces the phenomenon of craving. I thought a craving from the other fellowship was a thought or an urge, and it's not. It's actually a physical thing that happens to my body that once I pick up, I cannot stop. That's why I couldn't get to the program that I needed to get my son. It took me 18 months. There's the explanation of powerlessness. Physical aspect of the illness. And he also spoke, and people say, I might have heard this message and I wasn't listening. I did not hear this message. I wanted to get sober so bad in 2000. I remember the guy when I relapsed in 2002, 2003, saying you got high because you wanted to get high. And that wasn't true. I knew that wasn't true. And physical aspect of the illness, and there's also another one, there's the mental aspect, powerlessness. Once I put it down, I always go back because it's my solution. It's not the problem. And people have been telling me that I had a drug problem, alcohol problem my whole life. And that's the tricky powerlessness, that mental obsession. Because I had put it down. There was no explanation of why I had gone back. I did it to a T. Don't drink on meetings. Step 1 comes in 2 parts, unmanageability. Unmanageability is that I did lose 2 husbands. I was homeless and smelling in the street. I did lose my youngest son 3 times to DCF. 1 he doesn't even know. He was an infant. All that good stuff there. My family wasn't talking to me. But that's not the unmanageability that it's talking about. That's what I always thought it was. 10 years I've been in and out, in and out, in and out. Nobody ever explained this to me. I would have heard it. I would have known immediately. Spiritual malady. And water, I won't even call the city out, but the first place, well, I already did. We were calling it spiritual malady. When I was at, the big books that, really, like nobody knew. This is kind of baffling and powerful. But nobody knew what it was. And the unmanageability is the spiritual malady. The hole in the soul. I feel different. I feel less than. I don't feel a part of. There's a disconnect between me, you, God. Has nothing to do with love. I love my son. There's an example that I give on Christmas Eve. My family has this big, my father's side has this big thing, and I go there and I would sit. They're all together. It's my family. I would sit in another room. I didn't feel part of them. I felt completely different. That's the unmanageability. Irritable, restless, and discontent. And step 2, he does it real simple. Does this real simple. That's step 1. Unmanageability. And here I know he must have spoke on this. When I was, early 20s, I'm going to go to a psychiatrist, right? Because there's something clearly wrong. I could feel that there's something clearly wrong. When I feel it rising, I go to a psychiatrist. First time I went, I was diagnosed clinically depressed. They gave me Prozac or what have you, and I thought that was it. And I remember my biggest fear was getting crazier and crazier. And I remember asking the psychiatrist. There was somebody in the waiting room that was way crazier than I was. And I was like, I'm not going to get crazier, am I? And they were like, no. And so a few years later, now I'm bipolar. It was manic depressive now. Now it's bipolar. And I was given these medications, and they kept adding and adding and adding. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting crazy for a second. And anxiety, I was given the anxiety medication, and this is only my experience. It's just my experience. And I had borderline personality. I was given medication because I suffer from rage. And I'm sure there's a couple of OCD. And he explained it kind of like this. The depression, I had no purpose for living. The manic, I have racing thoughts because of my mental obsession. Borderline personality is I lower my moral standards to make myself feel better. Like that. That's a classy way of saying that I can't keep my legs closed. Because the men, it works. It works. It works. It works. If I put the alcohol and drugs down, I need a solution. Men's the answer, right? That makes sense. And I know it makes sense to you guys. Like you guys know, So the anxiety was really fear. OCD, I like to control shit, And I can't remember. There was a number of them. I haven't been on any medication since 2007. Like the 12 steps fix that. They said the third part of the illness is spiritual, and if you fix the spiritual, physical and mental will fall in line, and it did. I'm not crazy, and that was a great feeling. Step 2, I have lack of power. If I have no shoes, I need shoes. If I have no job, I need to get a job. If I have no power, I need to find the power. And through these steps, I will find that power. Step 3, he keeps it really simple. He has us do our prayer. We're going to say it every day. And it's really making a decision to go on with the rest of these steps. I do this at Friday night. I have a detox commitment. I say pretty much the same thing I just said. That's steps 1, 2, and 3. That's how fast it was. That was pretty fast. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And, somebody said they don't want to ever hear this. this analogy again, and they're going to hear it because it's my sponsor's thing, and I just love my sponsor. And around step 3, I didn't believe what he was saying. He's different than I am. He's from a different town. You know, he doesn't swear. I swear like a truck driver. I have children. Like, you know, and he's a man. We're completely different. And I had hurt a lot of people. I had done a lot of damage. And I didn't really understand or believe in what he was saying. And he was saying that these 12 steps are principles, right? And I didn't know what a principle was, and I did not ask. I didn't want him to think I'm stupid. And a principle, for 6 months, I went around not knowing what a principle was. A principle means it applies to everyone, such as gravity. And it doesn't matter if I understand and believe in gravity, and Steve over there does, right? If we both take the action of going to the top of the roof and taking the action of jumping off, the result is going to happen. Meaning, I don't have to understand or believe in these steps because they didn't. What he was saying, what I just said, is gibberish for somebody who didn't do it. You kind of understand it, but you're kind of more going on. I was going on the hopes that he knew what he was talking about, and I had nothing left to lose. I had been on methadone, buprenorphine, naltrexone, Suboxone, Lamb. It's not even around anymore. That was something back in '96. Every mental health medication known to man. A few men, we won't give the real number, but a few of them, you know. And they work, only for a time. They're tricky. The men are tricky. The women are tricky. Are you new? Stay away from the women. We're tricky. We'll work, but only just for so long. That's not the solution. And like I'm saying, I was married, and I did not see my husband the first year. I was taking these actions. And maybe even before, maybe 11 months, it's not like a miracle's going to happen. I was focused on these 12 steps, and the first thing he said was, AA will let you down, your network will let you down, I will let you down. I'm going to bring you through these 12 steps and put your hand in God's hand. And I'll tap you into a power that will never let you down. And that's accurate. That's true. Like, now, I didn't understand that, but I understand now. And I was saying just out there, step 4, or last night to somebody, step 4, I am so selfish and self-centered, I didn't see my part. So if you don't see your part in step 4, like, you're probably extremely selfish and self-centered like I was, and all I could see is, like, the people and what they did to me. And I didn't feel that until 8, you know. And my mom and my stepfather and my dad aren't here, and I also have a best friend that just passed. But my stepfather, when I was in Don't Drink, Go to Meetings, we're driving, and he was like, you know, I'm going to AA, and your mom's interfering. And I know my mom, you know, and I knew that to be true, you know. And I was like, the best thing I could say, my biggest solution was, do you want to move in with me? So I could bring him to the Don't Drink, Go to Meetings. And he was like, I can never leave your mother. And I knew that to be true. And he suffered. He suffered. He lay in bed, dead, for days. And my mother was so drunk herself, did not realize. And I seen a big, strong man. My stepfather was only 12 years older than me. Go from this big, strong man to this, like, pruned up old man, you know. And that was the solution. So as I'm starting to figure out that the 12 steps is the solution around that 9, I wrote a promise. I wrote this letter. I had to actually go to my grant sponsor, because my sponsor, if he doesn't have experience in the area, will say, I don't have experience in that area. Go to so-and-so. So I went to my grant sponsor, and he told me to write a letter. And I wrote a letter that I will carry this message if it kills me, you know. And when I got to 12, I was like, thanks, and I let my son had came back. You know, I had my own apartment for the first time. And I had arrived, I guess, you know. And my sponsor reminded me way back on step 3 that I was going to carry this message. And I do, and I love it. He says that a meeting is exactly that. A meeting is for somebody with a working knowledge to meet somebody who does not. It's not that I have to be at meetings. In all honesty, I go to my home group, Alcoholics in Action, Sunday night. I have a detox commitment on Friday. Work at a few other, like, homeless shelters or little inpatient things, and maybe on a Wednesday night. That's how many meetings I go to. I have a son. He's a spiritual principal in all my affairs. I have to be with my son, too. And, I have to say, somebody in my sponsorship line relapsed. I know they relapsed, whether they want to say it or not. I know. I was getting high for many, many years. I was raised in it. And I started questioning it, Started questioning it in the last couple of days. And on the flight here, and I hadn't helped anybody, I'm really getting wrapped up in myself. Questioning if this message works or not. If this whole entire thing works. I was caught in self. And when I woke up this morning, there was a guy. There was a guy that I woke up to, and I was smoking a cigarette bright and early. We went and we had breakfast, and it was a great, honest conversation. My sponsor says, and the difference between a real alcoholic and a problem drinker is exactly that. For the problem drinker, when you take the alcohol away, their life could get better. For the real alcoholic, that's not so. My life gets miserably worse. And there's a lot of, and here it is. I'm going to piss a lot of people off. There's a lot of people in here that aren't real alcoholics trying to carry this message. Not for nothing, I do these anxious. No. My mother and my stepfather, they were going to meetings. They did not hear this message. I could have died out there. In 5 years. I did not hear this message. And people want to argue, and I don't even know why. It baffles me why people want to argue that they're alcoholics, Like, this is a shameful place. Who wants to be in a meeting 7 days a week? Like, I don't get it. And people will argue the point where they should probably be at Big O and are in here trying to carry the message that's killing us. This guy, the first honest person that I've ever heard. I had 4 years, he said, and I haven't worked the steps, and I'm only a problem drinker. First honest thing, And then I jumped in the car with two strange men in the parking lot, and I was blessed because I remembered my primary purpose. I missed the whole first speaker. I'm sorry, whoever the first speaker was. The primary purpose, Sam. Sam, is that his name? I'm sorry, Sam. I remembered my primary purpose. And I came in here, and I was literally high when I sat down, one alcoholic sharing with another. Because all day yesterday, the last couple of days, I've been doubting. Well, why does that person stay sober and don't drink, go to meetings, and I have to work so hard? I actually was sitting down talking to someone. I suffer from a spiritual malady every day. And it sucks. But, I'm not getting high every day. I get up, and the only thing I have to do is put somebody before myself. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love Alcoholics Anonymous so much. I'm selfish and self-centered, driven by 100 forms of fear. I can't wish that away. The only way that I know how is sitting down, thinking of the next brother or sister. And I want to go into that. I have a male sponsor. A lot of people don't like that, especially that I just said he was handsome. But he is, too. He is. He's handsome, but in a very nerdy way. And he didn't look at me like a female. He looked at me like a sister in recovery. And I could sit down, and I don't know if it's that. I could sit down because it was a male that I just shared with. I don't look at the men in here like males. I look at you as my spiritual brother and sisters in need of help. One alcoholic sharing with another, somebody suffering. If I have the solution, which is the 12 steps, I could sit down and there's no greater feeling. And because like I said throughout my whole story, that was my biggest defect, was men. And it's funny because 6 and 7, there's a lot of controversy where I come from, how to do 6 and 7. And that's another thing. My sponsor was like, you do 12, God's going to remove those defects, whichever one stands in your way of your usefulness to helping others. I would have came in here and probably ruined all you guys, And that's the one defect that's been lifted. So I could sit down and share. Like, I don't know. My friends, and I'll kind of end with this. My best friend, actually, / lover, let me get a little honest, for the last 15 years, was dying in a hospital bed a few months ago. And he was saying how he loves his life, blah, blah, blah. And there's one thing he could do differently. He had been coming here since 1984. He had never done the 12 steps. He said, I want you to go, and it was June 26th. I spoke at my home group, and that's the first day he died on May 22nd. And I went in, and he wanted me to tell everybody at AA that if he had one more chance, one more shot, his liver had shut down, cirrhosis, last stage, that he would go back into the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous because he's seen the solution working in with me. So if you've been here for a while and haven't worked the 12 steps, probably not that happy. Or if you have a solution in gambling, food, opposite sex, whatever the case is, it's only going to work so long. Believe me, I'm not young anymore. I've tried everything there possibly is. The only solution was taking the steps, the action, in these 12 steps to clear all the wreckage out of my way so I could carry this message to another alcoholic. The answer's in the 12 steps. So thanks for letting me share. I don't know what time it is, but thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.